Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you a beautiful fingerstyle arrangement of My Heart Will Go On from the movie The Titanic. Now, I got a chance to play through this arrangement today, and I've got to say it's perfect for the seasoned beginner, budding intermediate player. And one of the biggest takeaways that I'm seeing from learning this piece of music is that you get to work on increasing the sustain of your notes and chords. So if you think back to the performance you just watched, think about how much space there is in between each musical phrase. Now that space needs to be filled. It can't just be silent, right? So this is a really good piece for working on sustain, having each chord ring out, each note ring out to connect one phrase to the next. So if you want a few extra tips on how to increase the sustain of your notes and chords, I'm going to link a lesson that Matt taught in the description box below, as well as in the card right here. Now let's take a step back and let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire arrangement. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for My Heart Will Go On. Now also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a really neat feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you want. Just a great asset in learning a song like this that much easier. All right guys, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this, and then I'll catch you at the end of the video.
Hello, my name is Matt Dahlberg, and in today's video we're going to learn a solo high G ukulele arrangement of the tune My Heart Will Go On from the hit film Titanic. Let's go ahead and dive into the intro, which is our first melody here, and we're going to kick it off with a pickup bar. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to play 1 on the E string with our index finger, and then 3 on the E string with our ring finger. Now, what I'm doing here to pluck this is I'm using my thumb with a technique that I call a rest stroke. I also call this just melodic picking. And what I recommend is checking out the link down below if you've never tried this technique before, as it'll help break it down for you. But after we play that 1 and 3, we're then going to play a modified D minor chord. The way we do this is we take our middle finger, place it here on the 2nd fret of the C string, and our index should still be here on the 1st fret of the E. We're going to strum through our C, E, and A together. And then to finish this measure, we're going to play 3 on the E with that ring finger, re-adding it, and then 1 by taking the ring finger off. So let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like now with the pickup bar into measure 1. Should be something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and... Going now into measure 2, we're going to play a C5 chord. To do this, just take your ring finger, place it on the 3rd fret of the E string, and drop the other fingers. Strum through your G, C, E, stopping on the A. Then quickly add the pinky finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string. Notice how I kind of tilt my fingers so that my fingernails are kind of pointed towards my shoulder here. That helps allow you to squeeze that pinky in underneath and play that. And then to finish the measure, I'm going to play 1 on the A. So I take that pinky off, add the index here on 1, and then take the index off for open. So measure 2 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And measures 1 and 2 with the pickup bar should sound something like this together. 1 and 2 and 3 and... Now you notice I made a little bit of a mistake there. I kind of strummed through, right? Really easy to do. What you want to make sure is as you're strumming through the ukulele, you stop on that string. In the case of that C5 chord, you want to stop on the A, catch it, fret it, add it. So that sounds like, and if you make the mistake that I just did, you might do this. And get that little bit of a buzz. So something to be aware of is stop into that string and you'll get crystal clear tone. every time you do it. So going into measure 3 now, we're going to play a B flat, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the G, index here on the 1st fret of the E, strum through our G, C, E together, and then play the C string. Nice and basic. In time, that sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into measure 4, we just play a C chord to do this. Ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, strum through all 4 strings. And then we're going to play 1 on the E with our index, and then 3 on the E with our ring. So measure 4 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And 3 and 4 should sound something like this together. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now as we go into measure 5 is exactly the same as measure 1. Exactly the same bar. There's no variation to it whatsoever. So you just strum through the C, E, and A. Then you play the 3 on the E, 1 on the E. Going into measure 6, it's going to be almost the same as measure 2, but with a very slight change. You're going to start with the same C5 chord, and then you're going to do the same 3 on the A. But then the very end of it's different. We're going to play open on the A string, and then we're going to play 5 on the A using a bar, or excuse me, 5 on the G with this bar. The bar is going to go across all 4 strings, but we're only going to play the 5 on the G. And this is setting up what comes next. So measure 6 in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And measures 5 and 6 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 7 now, we leave this bar where it is. We take the middle finger, add it here on the 6th fret of the E string, and we strum through our C, E, and A together. Then we're going to play 5 on the G. In time, that's something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 8, we play a C suspended 4 chord. Ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string, like a normal C, and then we're going to suspend the 4 by playing the 1 here on the E string to add that F with our index finger. And we're going to do an up strum. I like to use my thumbnail. You can use your index finger. It doesn't really matter as long as you get that sound of the G note last. And then we're going to play a C by simply taking off everything and playing only the C and E strings together. So measure 8 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And 7 and 8 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And this actually concludes the intro. So let's go ahead and hear what the whole intro section sounds like, starting with the pickup bar. In time, it should be something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and... And now from here, we go on to melody A. Melody A is going to start with an F chord, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the G string, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E. We're going to strum through our G, C, and E together. And we're going to then play 1 on the E 3 times after that. So measure 9 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into measure 10, we're going to play all open, and we're going to strum our G, C, and E together. And then we're going to play 1 on the E, and then 1 on the E again. So measure 10 in time sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 9 and 10 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 11, we're going to play this B flat sharp 11. Scary name, really easy to play. 3 on the G string with the ring finger, 2 on the C string with the middle finger. Leave the E string open, strum our G, C, E together. Then we're going to add 1 on the E string. And then we're going to add 3 on the E string with our pinky, making sure we're not taking anything off. So in time, measure 11 sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into now measure 12, we're going to play an F chord and then the C5 from earlier. So measure 12 sounds like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 11 and 12 together should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now going from here, we go into measure 13, which is going to be an F chord, and it's exactly the same as measure 9. And measure 14 is exactly the same as measure 10. Pretty neat, right? So 13 and 14 sound like this together, exactly the same as 9 and 10. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 15, we play open on the C string, and then a beautiful B flat major 7 chord. To play this, ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the G string, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the C string, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E string. Strum through all 4 strings. So measure 15 in time, very simple, sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 16 now, we play all open on the G, C, and E. At the very end, we're going to play 2 on the C with the middle finger, and then open on the E. So measure 16 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 15 and 16 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. At this point, it repeats. We go back to measure 9. So that we can hear this, I'm going to play measures 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, do the repeat back to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then we go to 17. Now, I'm going to show you how to play 17 before we go on, because all that it is this. You play open on the G, C, and E strings together, and that's all you need to do. And so in time, this whole section, this whole melody A is going to sound something like this, starting with measure 9, going all the way through 16, repeat back to 9, going all the way to 15, then skipping 16 because it's the first ending, going on to measure 17 for the second ending. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that concludes the B section, or melody A. From here, we go on to really the best part of the song, I think, and it's actually, I think, the easiest part to play too, which is going to be melody B or melody C. Call it either one. It's the section C, melody B. We're going to start with a D minor chord here, and we're going to play a full D minor this time instead of the partial one we did before. To do this, we're going to take our middle finger, place it here on the G string, 2nd fret, ring finger here, 2nd fret of the C string, and index here on the 1st fret of the E. Strum through all 3 of those strings, stopping on the A string. And you're going to strum through that, and that's the whole measure. And then from here, in time, it sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 19, we play that same C5 we did earlier. We're going to strum through the G, C, E strings. And then we play open on the C at the end of that measure. So in time, 19 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the pair of these together sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we're going to go to this awesome B flat sus2 chord. To play this, middle finger on the 5th fret of the C string, ring finger on the 6th fret of the E string, and then stretch your index finger down to the 3rd fret on the A. Strum through your C, E, and A. If you accidentally hit the G in there too, it's okay. I kind of like the texture of that, but it is supposed to just be the C, E, and A. And then we're going to play 6 on the E string, and then we're going to play open on the A. So in time, measure 20 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 21, we just slide this ring finger down to 3 on the E string and strum through our G, C, E together. Then we play open on the A, and then 1 on the A. So measure 21 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that you can hear, here's 20 and 21 together. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 22, we're going to play a D minor chord, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the C string, index here on the 1st fret of the E. So the same way we played the D minor at the very start of the song. Strum through your C, E, and A together. And then 3 on the E with the ring. 1 on the E, just taking that ring finger off. Then a C, well, before we get ahead of ourselves on measure 23, let's hear measure 22 in time. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. You'll notice that's exactly the same as measure 1, just with a little bit different of timing. Then we go on to measure 23, which is a C just open. We're going to play our G, C, E together. And we're going to add 1 on the E string with the index and play that again. So 23 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so now that you can hear it, here is measure 22 and 23 in time together. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we go into measure 24. We're going to play 2 on the C with our middle finger. Follow that with a B flat major 7. The same one that we played earlier, the 3, 2, 1, 0. Love this chord. And so playing that in time on measure 24 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And going into measure 25, we play open on the C and open on the E. And then we play 2 on the C, followed by open on the E. So in time, 25 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 24 and 25 should sound something like this together. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And at this point, it actually repeats, goes back to the start of melody B, which is with that D minor. to the C5, B flat sus2, C5, D minor, C. And now we go to the second ending on the second follow through to measure 26. We're going to play that same B flat sharp 11 we played earlier, which is the 3, 2, 0. We add that 1. Then we're going to add 3 on the pinky there on the E string. You'll notice that this little line here is exactly the same as what we played on measure 11, exactly identical. And in time sounds like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And I went right into measure 27 because it's just so tempting to. Because measure 27 is very simple. Measure 27 exactly the same as measure 12 we played earlier, which is going to be an F chord, and then that C5. So in time, measure 27 sounds something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then it goes on to measure 28, which is just ending on an F where you don't play the A string. And so that you can hear it, here is all of 26, 27, and 28, the whole second ending put together. Should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that you can hear the whole thing, here is all of melody B. So measures 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, repeat, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, then second ending 26, 27, 28. Should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And there you have it. There is My Heart Will Go On. This is an absolutely fantastic lesson to work on tone. Make sure you're getting the best sustain you possibly can out of your ukulele and ensure that you're fretting in the right places to make that happen. So whether you're a beginner player working on one of your first chord melody arrangements or a more advanced player trying to really dial in that tone, this is a really great exercise. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll look forward to next time when I see you guys for the next lesson here on Rock Class 101. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a lot of fun. We're actually releasing this, I think about 2 or 3 weeks before Valentine's Day, so plenty of time to learn it and play it for that special someone in your life. So guys, I wanted to give you a friendly reminder that if you did want to get the tabs to print and keep for your records, that was available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com, do a search for My Heart Will Go On, and also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed learning this arrangement, and we'll catch you in the next lesson. Take care.